Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC Vegas 75, Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier, and this is going to be my full card predictions. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card, give you a quick breakdown and prediction. And if you guys enjoyed these full card prediction videos, do me a favor, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And this is actually my first video since I hit 10,000 subscribers, so I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching the videos and being subscribed to the channel. Starting off with the first fight of the night, we have Modestas Bukauskas versus Pauga. Bukauskas is 14-5, 29 years old, 6'3", and has a 78-inch reach. Pauga is 6-1, 35 years old, 6'2", and has a 76-inch reach. So a 6-year youth advantage for Bukauskas, 1-inch height advantage, and 2-inch reach advantage for Bukauskas. Bukauskas had a run in the UFC previously. It ended with that nasty oblique kick from Khalil Rountree where he blew out his knee. But Bukauskas won 2 fights out of the UFC and then came back. I believe it was on short notice against Tyson Pedro. I don't remember exactly. And he got the win against Tyson Pedro. A lot of people thought he was going to lose, but he had the better cardio. He had the better striking. He won that fight. Pauga, he won his last fight against Jordan Wright. Wasn't the most impressive performance. And he came off of the Ultimate Fighter and fought Muhammad Usman in the finale. He was looking pretty good, but then he got brutally KO'd. So when I look at this fight, I see Bukauskas, who has better striking, and I think he has decent footwork, and he has okay takedown defense. I'm a little bit worried about his takedown defense. And then I see Pauga, who has pretty good kicks, but he kind of just wants to clinch up, use his dirty boxing. That's what he did in the Jordan Wright fight. I am going with Modestas Bukauskas via decision. I think Pauga is going to try to grapple him. I think he's going to try to push him against the fence, but I think Bukauskas has the more technical striking. I think he has decent enough footwork, and I think he'll be able to avoid the grappling of Pauga. And plus, Pauga, 7 fights versus, you have 19 pro fights from Bukauskas. And then also Pauga is 35 years old. He's very athletic. He hasn't taken a lot of damage. He suffered his first loss against Muhammad Usman. But I think Bukauskas has come back to the UFC. I think he's rejuvenated. I think he's going to be using his footwork. And I think he's just going to outstrike Bukauskas or outstrike Pauga to a decision. I think this is going to be a close fight with Pauga kind of getting some positional control up in the clinch, up against the fence. But I think Bukauskas is just going to use his footwork and outstrike him to a decision. Moving up on the card, we have Ronnie Lawrence versus Daniel Argueta. This is a fight that, honestly, Ronnie Lawrence, I know he's not a ranked bantamweight, but he's a very good fighter. And his last fight was against Sadyukab Kakhramonov, who's not in the UFC anymore. But honestly, he's an elite of the elite type fighter, and that's how deep the bantamweight division is. Sadyukab was about to beat Said Nurmagomedov, who I think is still ranked or just barely out of the top 15 of the rankings, and then he got submitted. And he went out there and ragdoll Ronnie Lawrence, out-grappled him, Sadyukab Kakhramonov, and it kind of made him look bad. But Ronnie Lawrence is a very good fighter. He came off of Dana White's Contender Series, got 2 wins. He's 31 years old. He's 8-2. He's 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. So he's got a little bit of a reach disadvantage, a 2-inch reach disadvantage to Daniel Argueta. And Daniel Argueta is 29 years old. When I look at this fight, I see Ronnie Lawrence. He's going to want to grapple. He got out-grappled by Sadyukab, but Ronnie Lawrence is a very good grappler. He's super gritty, has a very good gas tank, has a great pace. And then you have Argueta, who wants to grapple, but I think Ronnie Lawrence is going to be a much better grappler, and I think he's going to have a better gas tank, and his striking is pretty sloppy, and he got out-grappled by Damon Jackson. You look at his last fight, he beat Nick Argueta, then before that he got out-grappled by Damon Jackson, so I don't have a lot of confidence in him. I'm going Ronnie Lawrence, 3rd round TKO. I think he'll just put a pace on him. I think he has better grappling. I think he'll be able to out-grapple him. I think he has better striking, and I'm going to go Ronnie Lawrence, 3rd round TKO. I think Daniel Argueta is going to slow down in that 3rd round. He's going to be getting out-grappled, and I think he's going to get TKO'd via ground and pound in the 3rd round. Moving up on the card, we have Tereza Bledá versus Gabriel Fernandes. Both relatively inexperienced. Bledá is 6-1 to Fernandez is 8-2. Both pretty young, but Bledá is 21 years old to Fernandez is 29, 5'9" to 5'6", 71 to 67.5. And this is a fight that honestly, it's low-level women's MMA, so it really could go either way. But Bledá wants to grapple. Fernandez wants to strike. She has good kicks. She has decent clinch work. You look at their most recent fights. Fernandez is coming off a loss against Jasmine Jadavicius, which doesn't look that bad after her most recent performance against Miranda Maverick. And then you have Tereza Bledá coming off a loss to Natalia Silva, where she got spinning back kick KO'd. That's not a horrible loss to have. Natalia Silva is a very good fighter. I just think in this fight, Bleda's going to have the grappling advantage. I think she's going to be able to take her down, control her on the ground, win positional battles, and she's going to win a decision. I'm going Tereza Bledá via decision over Gabriel Fernandes. Moving up on the card, we have Felipe Bunes versus Zhumagulov. Zhumagulov has gotten screwed so many times. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Charles Johnson in his last fight via split decision. There was a lot of fouls in this fight, and I still thought he won this fight. And then before that, he lost a split decision to Jeff Molina. I thought that fight could have won either way. Zhumagulov is 34 years old, which is crazy for the flyweight division. You have Felipe Bunes, who is 33 years old. He's 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. So, a massive 4-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage for Felipe Bunes. I see Bunes, who is very hittable. He has some flashy techniques. He has some decent striking, but he can be controlled. And when I look at Zhumagulov, he has good leg kicks. He's very well-rounded. He's fast. And I think Zhumagulov is kind of underrated because he's lost 4 out of his last 5. But, his last real definitive loss was against Manuel, where he got finished via TKO. And the other 2 fights, he could have easily have won those fights. He could be on a 2-fight winning streak. And, when you look at Bunes, he's coming from LFA. We won his last fight via KO. But I think he's still relatively, I just think he's on a different level or on a lower level than Zhumagulov. And I think Zhumagulov's going to come out, put everything together. I'm going Zhumagulov via decision. Moving up on the card, Carlos Hernandez versus Denis Bondar. This is a very interesting fight. I think this fight is going to be a relatively decent fight while it lasts. Hernandez, super inexperienced. I mean, you look at his record, he's 8-2. There's a lot of inexperienced guys on this card. He's coming off a loss in his last fight against Alan Nascimento. Not a horrible loss to have. Got dominated on the ground, got submitted via rear naked choke. He's 29 years old. Bondar's 30 years old. 5'8" for Hernandez to 5'6", and then 67-inch reach. Bondar has a 69-inch reach, so a 2-inch reach advantage for Bondar. Bondar's been super inactive, though. His last fight was against Malcolm Gordon about 1.5 years ago, where he posted up on his arm, injured his arm. The fight before that was almost 3 years ago. So he's fought basically twice in 3 years. So it's really hard to try to predict this fight. Bondar, he's really good on the feet. He has good grappling. I don't think Hernandez is really a finishing threat. I don't think he's going to finish him on the feet. I don't think, he's going to have a submission threat against Bondar. I am going to go Denis Bondar via second round sub. I think he's going to be able to take him down, control him on the ground, beat him up on the ground, and then eventually find a rear naked choke in the second round. I just think Carlos Hernandez, he's an okay fighter, but he's still very young. He's still relatively inexperienced, and he got dominated by Alan Nascimento in his last fight, and he got control on the ground. And I think Denis Bondar is going to try to take him down and submit him in this fight. So I'm going Denis Bondar, second round submission. Moving up on the card, Young Ho Kang versus Christian Quintionez. This is a very interesting fight. I think this will be a very fun fight. I think this is striker versus striker matchup. You have Kong in his last fight, he fought Batgarel Dana. This was a fun fight. And then the fight before that, he lost to Ronnie. He got out grappled. He's 35 years old, 5'9", has a 73-inch reach. You look at Quintionez, he's 5'8" and has a 70-inch reach. So a 1-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. They're both primarily strikers. Quintionez has very good hands, very fast hands, good jab, decent power. And then you have Kong, who has very good leg kicks, good jabs, has suspicious takedown defense. Ronnie Yahya is an okay grappler, but to get dominated by Ronnie Yahya, I think it was the second and third round, got absolutely out-grappled, couldn't do nothing off his back. But I don't think Quintionez is going to try to mix in the grappling too much. I think this is going to be primarily striking, and I just think Christian Quintionez has faster hands. I think they both have power and finishing ability, but I have to go with Quintionez. He's 27 years old. He does have the reach disadvantage, but I just think he has more power in his hands. I think he's very aggressive, and I just think he has faster hands overall. And neither one of these guys is like crazy technical. They kind of brawl a little bit, but I think both guys have a really good chance at winning this fight. But I just favor Quintionez. I think he has a little bit faster hands. So I'm going Christian Quintionez via second round TKO. I think he's going to clip him on the feet, drop him, and then finish him on the ground. Moving up on the card, we have Jimmy Flick versus Alessandro Costa. Jimmy Flick, his last fight was against Charles Johnson, got brutally TKO'd on the ground, kind of looking for submissions, got beat up on the ground. He's 32 years old. Before the Charles Johnson fight, he sat out for 2.5 years. He retired after a win over Cody Durden where he won via flying triangle. He's 5'7", has a 70.5-inch reach. You have Alessandro Costa, 27 years old, coming off that loss to Amir Albazi where he got finished in the third round. 5'4", so he has a 3-inch height disadvantage and has a 67-inch reach, so he has a 3.5-inch reach disadvantage. I'm going Alessandro Costa via first round TKO. Jimmy Flick wants to grapple. He wants to look for submissions, and he has 14 out of 16 wins by sub, but his striking is horrible. And Alessandro Costa, in his last fight, fought Amir Albazi on short notice, who's a top-ranked flyweight and has very good grappling and stuffed some of those takedowns and survived when he was on bottom. And eventually he got clipped up in the third round and got finished, but he was hanging in there on the feet. I don't think Jimmy Flick has anywhere near the level of striking as Amir Albazi. I think Alessandro Costa is a very good fighter. I think potentially top 15 ranked flyweight eventually. That's kind of a bold prediction, but I think he's going to go out there. He's 27 years old. He's 5 years younger than Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick's had one fight in the last 2 years or so, 2.5 years, and or 2 fights in the last 2.5 years. And I think Alessandro Costa is going to light him up on the feet. Late first round KO for Alessandro Costa. Moving up on the card, Ronnie Barcelos versus Miles Johns. Ronnie Barcelos has been around forever. He's 36 years old. He's 17-4. You look at Miles Johns, 29 years old, 13-2. He's 5'7", has a 66-inch reach. So they're same height, basically same reach. And you look at Ronnie Barcelos, his last fight was against Umar Nurmagomedov. It was a competitive fight, but he got KO'd in the first round. You look at Miles Johns' last fight, he beat Vince Morales. He won via decision, used his grappling, used his striking. Before that, has a loss to John Castaneda, which John Castaneda is a very good fighter, very well-rounded fighter. I just think Ronnie Barcelos, I know he got KO'd in his last fight, and I know he's lost 3 out of his last 4. He lost to Victor Henry. He lost to Timur Valiev, who's no longer in the UFC. But both those guys are very good, and especially, I don't think there's any shame in losing to Umar Nurmagomedov. I think he's a top-ranked bantamweight, future top 5 bantamweight. And I think Ronnie Barcelos, you look at his skill set, very well-rounded, has good footwork. His head movement, leaves a lot to be desired. He doesn't move his head a whole lot, and he can be hit. And he is coming off that KO, but it's been about 5 months since the KO to Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm going Ronnie Barcelos via decision. I just think he's better everywhere. Miles John comes out, kind of plots forward with a high guard, looking to wrestle, looking to land big bombs, and maybe clips Ronnie Barcelos on the feet. But I have to go Ronnie Barcelos. I think he's more experienced, more well-rounded, has a better skill set. I'm going Ronnie Barcelos via decision. Moving up on the card, this is actually the first fight on the main card. We have Muslim Salikhov versus Nikolas Dalby. Salikhov, 19-3, 39 years old, 5'11", and 70-inch reach. Dalby, 38 years old, he's 21-4. 5'11", has a 74.5-inch reach. So a 4.5-inch reach advantage for Dalby. And this is a fight, honestly, between 2 very old guys who I believe are kind of out of their way, on their way out of the UFC in the next year or two. Salikhov has 15 of 9 wins by stoppage. He has very good grappling, has very good power. In his last fight, he brutally finished Andre Fialho. The fight before that, he got finished by Li Jingliang, which isn't a horrible loss to have. You look at Dalby, in his last fight, he beat Warley Alves via split decision. I thought he could have lost that fight. Before that, Claudio Silva via decision. Before that, a loss to Tim Means via decision. Dalby's very slow. He slows down as the fight goes on. He eats a lot of shots. He wants to strike primarily, and he has okay takedown defense, but I just think Muslim Salikhov has better striking. I think he has more power, and I think he has better grappling, and I think he has an okay gas tank. He's kind of slow. He's kind of old too, and I think Dalby can land some good shots on the feet, but I think Salikhov will mix in the grappling and have that extra threat, to threaten the takedown on the feet. He'll be able to land on the feet, and I think as Dalby slows down and throws kind of laboring shots, I'm going to say Muslim Salikhov catches him in the third round. I'm going Muslim Salikhov via third round TKO. Moving up on the card, Nikolas Motta versus Manuel Torres. Nikolas Motta, 13-4, 30 years old, 5'9", 70.5-inch reach. You have Manuel Torres, 13-2, 28 years old, 5'10", 73-inch reach. So a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage for Torres. And Nikolas Motta's kind of hit or miss. In his last fight, he finished Cameron Van Camp, KO'd him in the first round. The fight before that, he fought Jim Miller. Was looking okay in that fight, then got brutally KO'd by Jim Miller. This is a fight, honestly, could go either way. Motta has 9 of 13 wins by finish. Torres has 20 of 13 wins by finish. So I think no matter what, this fight ends in the first 2 rounds. Motta likes to kind of plot forward with a high guard, throwing combinations, super heavy on the lead leg, has decent takedown defense. Jim Miller was shooting takedowns. He was able to defend those. Motta has good power. We've seen it against Cameron Van Camp. Torres has very fast hands, has very good combinations. Has a nasty left hook, and he's super aggressive and has a crazy killer instinct. His last fight against Frank Camacho, he really went after him, and he was aggressive early, and I believe that was a first-round KO, and he comes off of Dana White's Contender Series. They're trying to build him up. I think Manuel Torres has far better striking. I think he has faster hands. I'm a little bit worried because he is very hittable and leaves his chin out there. But I'm going to go Manuel Torres via first-round TKO. I think he's going to go after him. I think he's going to catch him with a lead left hook. I think he's going to hurt him badly and then just swarm with shots. He's got great killer instinct. And I think he's going to get a late first-round TKO from Manuel Torres. Moving up on the card, Pat Sabatini versus Lucas Almeida. Sabatini, 17-4, 32 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. Lucas Almeida, 14-1, 32 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach. You have Almeida, who's had 3 canceled fights. He was supposed to fight on UFC 289, got canceled. Almeida has good hands, but he's been super inactive. Pat Sabatini, 4-1 in the UFC, but in his last fight got brutally chinned by Damon Jackson and his hairline. Fight before that, he beat TJ Larmine, out-grappled him in the second and third round. This is a fight that I feel like Lucas Almeida is going to want to keep it on the feet. Sabatini's going to want to grapple him. Sabatini has like a grinding style, good cardio, and has some submission skills as well. I think Lucas Almeida is going to be decent on the feet. I think he's going to be throwing combinations. But I think, you know, you look in his last few fights, he won against Mike Trezano where he KO'd him, hit him with a left hook, then finished him with ground and pound. But he got taken down in that fight. He got hurt badly in this fight. And I think, you know, I think that Sabatini is going to have the grappling advantage. I think he's going to come out there, shoot takedowns, grind on him a bit. I think the first round is going to be competitive. I think if Almeida wins, he gets like a first-round TKO. But I'm going Pat Sabatini, second-round submission. I think he's going to get him down. I think he's going to use that grinding style. I think he's going to tire him out. And I think in the second round, he's going to get him down, control him on the ground, and find like a head and arm triangle and finish him in the second round. Pat Sabatini, second-round sub. Moving up on the card, a fight that I'm really looking forward to. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Armen Petrosyan. Christian Leroy Duncan, 8-0, 27 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach. Armen Petrosyan, 7-2, 32 years old, 6'3", with a 71-inch reach. So an 8-inch reach advantage for Christian Leroy Duncan and a 5-year youth advantage for Christian Leroy Duncan. Christian Leroy Duncan's last fight was against Dusto Todorovic. He was looking so good. The striking was looking so good. And he was winning the fight, no doubt. But then Dusto Todorovic, they were in a clinch, and it seemed like Todorovic was looking for a takedown, blew out his knee, kind of ruined the performance. It was a first-round TKO nonetheless, and I think Christian Leroy Duncan was well on his way to winning, but you never know in MMA, and I think it kind of soured his UFC debut, but he looked super impressive. His stance looked really good. He was switching stances. He was super light on his feet. Side kicks to the body were really, really good, and he has very good hands as well and very fast, very good distance management, super dynamic striking. Armen, he's won 5 of 7 fights by KO or TKO, and I meant to say Christian Leroy Duncan. You look at his fights, he's won 6 of 8 by KO or TKO. I think this fight ends in a finish. And Armen Petrosyan wants to strike as well. He has decent technical striking. I think Christian Leroy Duncan has far better kicks, far better distance management, far more dynamic striking. Petrosyan's kind of pumping the jab, just throwing technical striking shots. And he has an 8-inch reach disadvantage. I'm going Christian Leroy Duncan, first round KO. I think he's going to KO Armen Petrosyan. He's going to use that reach. He's going to be switching stances, fading in and out of different stances, throwing left hands, throwing right hands, mixing in the side kicks to the body, mixing in the leg kicks. He's got power in all his limbs. And I think Christian Leroy Duncan's a very interesting middleweight prospect that we have to keep an eye on. And I think he's going to go out there and get a statement win against Armen Petrosyan. First round TKO. I say he's going to drop him with a head kick, finish him off on the ground with hammer fist in the first round. Moving up on the card, a fight that makes absolutely no sense. The co-main event, Armen Tsarukyan versus Joaquim Silva. I don't know why this fight is being made. Armen Tsarukyan's ranked 8 in the UFC lightweight rankings. Joaquim Silva's not even ranked. And if he was ranked, he'd probably be ranked like number 30, 40, somewhere around there in the lightweight division. I guess just Tsarukyan can't find a fight. I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand this matchmaking. Tsarukyan has to be a massive favorite. He's 19-3. The only fight he's lost is in the UFC's again, or not in the UFC, in recent memories against Mateusz Gamrot. And I thought he won that fight. That was a year ago, roughly a year ago. I thought he won this fight in the 4th round, which one judge gave to Gamrot. He dropped Gamrot, and then it was a close round after that. So I thought he won that fight. I think Tsarukyan should be in title contention. He should be close to a number 1 contender fight. And instead, he's fighting a guy that's not even ranked. He's 26 years old. He's 5'7", has a 72.5-inch reach. You have Joaquim Silva, who's 34 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. So a 3.5-inch reach advantage for Armen Tsarukyan. I think Armen Tsarukyan's better everywhere. I think he's going to go out there. I think he's going to beat him up on the feet. I think he's going to take him down at will. He has great ground and pound. I believe Tsarukyan is an elite lightweight. And I just think this is a matchup that makes very little sense. And you have Silva, who has 3 fights in the last 4 years. He has decent power. In his last fight, which was 8 months ago against Jesse Ronson, landed that flying knee KO. He landed that same flying knee over and over again. I don't think that's going to work against Tsarukyan. I think Tsarukyan's going to beat him up on the feet, very kick heavy on the feet, but I think he's going to mix in the takedowns because he's not going to be worried about the jiu-jitsu, and I think Tsarukyan's going to have a massive grappling advantage. We've seen Tsarukyan 3 fights ago against Joel Alvarez just absolutely dominate him and beat him on the ground. I'm going Armen Tsarukyan, 1st round ground and pound TKO. I think he's going to shoot in on a takedown, find the takedown, and win the fight via TKO, late 1st round. Just beat him up badly on the ground, destroy him, and finish him off on the ground. Armen Tsarukyan, easy win, and he better get a big fight in his next fight. Moving on to the main event, Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier. This is honestly a fight that could go either way. Honestly, I'm being honest. I thought about both guys. I flipped and flopped back and forth. I watched some tape on them. You have Marvin Vettori, who right now in the middleweight rankings is sitting at number 3. Jared Cannonier sitting at number 4. Marvin Vettori's 19-5-1, 29 years old, 6 foot tall, 74-inch reach. You have Cannonier, who's 16-6, 39 years old, 5'11", with a 77.5-inch reach. So a 3.5-inch reach for Jared Cannonier, but a 10-year youth advantage for Marvin Vettori. You look at Marvin Vettori's last fight against Roman Dolidze. It was an ugly fight. It was a terrible fight. He won the fight via decision. I thought he won, but some people thought Roman Dolidze won that fight. It was just a bad stylistic matchup because Marvin Vettori didn't want to go to the ground with him because of his jiu-jitsu, and then Dolidze has very good power on his feet, and it just seemed like Marvin Vettori was off in this fight, and I just thought it didn't look like the Marvin Vettori we've seen in the past. Before that, he got outclassed by Robert Whittaker. Before that, he beat Paulo Costa in one of the greatest fights of that year. Crazy back and forth, and Marvin Vettori looked like he was made of steel. And then the fight before that was a title fight against Israel Adesanya back at UFC 263. He lost via decision. You look at Cannonier, has a controversial win over Sean Strickland in his last fight. I thought he won, but honestly, it was a coin flip. Could have won either way. I thought he landed a little bit better shots, and Strickland landed more shots. So it was kind of one of those fights that could have went either way. The fight before that was the absolute stinker against Israel Adesanya. Then before that, brutally KO'd Derek Brunson. Before that, won a decision over Kelvin Gastelum, which I actually thought Kelvin Gastelum won that fight. And then before that, a loss to Robert Whittaker. This is basically a fight between 2 top 5 middleweights who are never getting a title shot again unless we have a new champion. And I think Jared Cannonier has a power advantage. I think he has a striking advantage. But he's getting old and he's slowing down a bit. I mean, he didn't look all that great in the Sean Strickland fight. Didn't look great in the Israel Adesanya fight. He was losing the 1st round against Derek Brunson, who, I mean, that was only a year ago, and Derek Brunson falling off a cliff at that point. And I look at Marvin Vettori, he looked terrible in his last fight. To be honest, even though he got the win over Roman Dolidze, he looked super tentative on the feet. He looked slow, and he also looked like he was really, really tired in the 3rd round for a low-paced fight. And that was crazy to me considering the fight that went on against Paulo Costa, where it was 5 rounds and it was crazy output, and Marvin Vettori didn't get tired at all. And Marvin Vettori is one of these guys who's just really good everywhere, but not great in anywhere. And the striking isn't particularly good, but for my pick for the main event, I'm going Marvin Vettori via decision. I thought about picking Jared Cannonier. He does have good power. Marvin Vettori's very hittable, but Marvin Vettori's just so durable. And then he also has the threat of the grappling, the threat of the clinch. I don't think Marvin Vettori's going to go out there and take him down and control him for 5 rounds like he did, maybe like a Kevin Holland. And I think Jared Cannonier is going to land some good shots, but Marvin Vettori, it's hard for me to imagine Marvin Vettori getting finished in this fight. So I think whoever wins this fight is most likely going to be a via decision. And I just think Marvin Vettori has more paths to victory and more skills overall. And then you add in the fact that Jared Cannonier is 39 years old. It's hard for me to pick a 39-year-old who hasn't looked good. I mean, when's the last time he's looked super impressive? Kelvin Gastelum, maybe? So, I mean, you have Jared Cannonier who has a lot of power, who has finishing ability, but he's 39 years old. Even for the middleweight division, that is very, very old. And I think Vettori, I think something was off last fight that we don't know about. He was slowing down in the third round. This is a 5-round fight. I think Marvin Vettori is going to show up in great shape. I think he's going to put a great pace. And I think he just has a more well-rounded skill set. I think he's going to mix in the grappling, mix in the clinch control. He throws decent volume on the feet. And it's just hard for me to imagine Jared Cannonier getting a finish. I think this is going to be a close fight. I'm going to say Marvin Vettori wins 3-2, and we have a debatable decision because maybe Jared Cannonier in the first 2 rounds, he's able to stuff the takedowns and he lands good shots on the feet. Maybe Marvin Vettori lands a little bit more shots, more volume on the feet. And I think it's going to be one of those decisions where it's kind of debatable, but Marvin Vettori, most people think Marvin Vettori won. I just think he's going to mix in the clinch work, mix in the takedown attempts, which helps, on the feet, him land combinations on the feet. And I just don't think Jared Cannonier is going to be able to get him out of there. So I'm going Marvin Vettori via decision. Maybe this is the fight where Jared Cannonier shuts Marvin Vettori's lights out and Marvin Vettori actually gets put out. But I just find that hard to believe. I can't imagine a world where Marvin Vettori gets put to sleep by Jared Cannonier. And I just think Jared Cannonier's on that slow career decline. And he's starting to slow down. He's not pulling the trigger in fights. So I have to go with Marvin Vettori via decision. Let me know what you guys think about my picks down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.